you believe that 2025 is now just around the corner? Now, you might be worrying or thinking, how am I even gonna level up, prepare for this new year when it's only a few weeks away? Like, that is some intense stuff right there. But don't worry, that is what the Self-Obsessed podcast is here for. In this podcast episode, I'm going to break down a bunch of steps that you can start implementing literally today to make sure that you are in a better position come January 1st, 2025, to make sure that you're just leaving all the things that don't serve you behind in 2024. You're not bringing over the same baggage, the same mistakes, the same old cycles and patterns into a new year. We don't claim any of that, okay? We're trying to level up into the best versions of ourselves, and that means trying new things, but also letting go of the things that we know don't work for us. And sometimes that takes a little bit of learning, a little bit of work to really identify what needs to stay and what needs to go. So if you're feeling a little bit unsure on where to get started and how to really ensure that 2025 is going to be your best year, then stay tuned, because in this episode, I'm going to break it all down for you. This is really just summing up all of the things that I've learned over the last few years of coming into New Year's, what mistakes I've made, what really, really helped. I'm also going to be tying in things that I'm personally going to be doing coming into a new year. And this is a little bit different from the YouTube video I recently uploaded on my channel. If you don't watch it, be sure to subscribe. But I basically made this video right here, which was all about your winter arc. It's more actionable steps on what you can be doing in the last quarter of the year to really make sure that you are already making those changes. In this episode, we're really going to just be discussing quick changes, mindset shifts, and things that help you make a change much faster. Be sure to check out all of the links below this podcast episode or in the description if you're watching this on YouTube, where you can find the Self-Obsessed podcast Instagram. That is where we post bite-sized information, things that just keep you on track on the daily. So when you're scrolling on social media, you are still inspired, you are still educated, you are still being held accountable on your growth journey. Be sure to also check out my personal Instagram and TikTok, because they both do the exact same things, along with both of my YouTube channels and the new Self-Obsessed newsletter, which is a fortnightly newsletter which delivers exclusive tips, linked tools, my personal story and insights, all things that I don't say anywhere else on social media. You can sign up via the link below. So without any further ado, let's get right into it. Lesson number 1 is to hire and fire accordingly for a future of abundance. You are never going to be able to truly achieve real change by holding on to things that happened in the past, resonating with the version of yourself that you used to be, which clearly didn't get you to where you wanted to be. So it just doesn't make sense to even think about the past, think about who you used to be, and use any of that information to start forming decisions about where you need to go from now on. Now is the time to be super present, to start thinking in a different way, to separate yourself from who you have been this entire time and start doing different things. In addition to that, it's time to stop accepting the things that don't serve you. It's so easy to just float through each day, carry on with what you're doing. If you just take a step back and think, actually, does that friendship serve me? Is that actually adding value into my life? Because at the end of the day, I'm spending my valuable time and my valuable energy investing into it, allowing it into my life, taking energy from me and receiving somebody else's energy. Is it really contributing to the overall purpose of my life and where I want to get to? Is how I spend my weekends or my mornings or my nights actually getting me closer to my goals or pushing me further away? These questions are so necessary and are truly the steps to start distancing yourself from all of the things that you have been living through to getting to the most ideal version of you in the future. And don't get me wrong, I know it's hard. I think at the end of the year, everybody's always talking about getting excited to meet new goals. We don't always recognize that sometimes this time of year can be especially hard, because we get so reflective, not only about all of the good things that happened this year and where we have been, but sometimes it can be sad and frustrating to remember all of the things that you didn't do. And when we focus on those things that didn't go according to plan, bad things that happened, times that we failed, times that we made mistakes, it can really put a dampener on our mental health, on our mood, on our self-perception, on our self-esteem. And if those things aren't in check, it's going to be really, really hard to start making better decisions for ourselves, because there's not going to be any motivation or confidence or courage there to support it. So I also want to say, don't think too hard about the goals that you didn't achieve. I myself am a super ambitious, highly motivated person. I'm all about self-development. I'm all about setting the goals. And every single year, there are always a few things that I didn't achieve, even though I said I would. And a really useful reframe that's helped me in making sure that that doesn't affect me as a person or my motivation is by remembering, if it was supposed to happen, it would have happened. And guess what? You still have the rest of your life. Just because it didn't happen in one singular year doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Sometimes the timings, the situations, the environments we're in simply weren't the right environment for us to be able to bring that goal to fruition. That's completely okay. You have next year, you have the year after that, you have the next decade, you have the rest of your life. don't worry so much about the timing. The best thing you can do for yourself is to reflect on everything you actually did do. It's the best and easiest positive mindset shift that makes sure that you are going to be in the right headspace for a new year where you need to be ready to set all of these new goals. You need to think of your life as a garden. If you are still holding onto the dead leaves, if you're not plucking out the weeds, there won't be any space for new plants to grow and flourish in your garden, which is your life. By clearing out the old, you are making space for the new. And of course, there are a few practical ways to do this. So my favorite New Year's Eve / last week of the year ritual is to do this releasing ritual, which is where you'll get out a piece of paper. Don't do your phone for this. Get out a piece of paper and truly just write down everything that happened, everything that you want to let go of in your life, things that aren't serving you, mindsets that you want to get rid of, things that are still haunting you, you feel guilty about, you feel sad about, that you just don't want to feel anymore. Write it out, pour your heart out, put in all of the detail, and then burn the piece of paper. This is actually such a powerful technique, and it's been proved and tested to actually help you release that old stagnant energy that may be holding you back. And I think it's actually just such a great way to close off that year and make sure you're not bringing in any of those new thoughts into the new year, because you can physically see all of those thoughts, all of those events being disintegrated. Alternatively, if you don't want to do that, I'm all here for a good journal practice. I love to just get out a few pages in my journal, write it all out, swear, scribble. It doesn't need to be neat. It doesn't need to make grammatical sense. You just need to get everything out of you so that you can process it and you're not holding on to those old emotions. Because if you don't take the time to write things out, to get it off your chest, to talk to someone, to go to therapy, to actually acknowledge what's going on in the back of your mind, you will still be haunted by it. And that's not always in the form of you're going to have a breakdown in the middle of the day. Sometimes it's because your subconscious is holding on to so many things that you haven't processed that it will start showing up in your dreams. And I say this because this was actually something that happened this year, which really kept me in check with making sure I was more consistent with my journaling, because I realized that there are still things that bother me that I've kind of forgotten about and pushed to the side because I'm busy, and that's a distraction that I'm not actually actively dealing with. And now I'm having restless nights when I go to sleep because my brain is trying to process it for me in the form of dreams. And that really was a huge lesson for me this year, that it really is important to reorganize the thoughts in your brain, to be actively aware of what's in there and what is serving you and not. So remember to fire and rehire accordingly, whether it's people in your life, environments, situations you're putting yourself in, habits, and so on. This links into lesson number 2, which is to do a life audit. This is for my organizational girlies. You are going to love this. A life audit is basically where you take a really clear and focused look at where you are now and where you want to be in the future. And just like you would do a financial audit to assess your income and your expenses, a life audit works in a very similar way, except you are assessing every single area of your life so nothing goes overlooked. This way, you can look at all the different areas and components of your life to see what's working, what needs changing, and what needs removing. Otherwise, if we are just setting goals from our just regular thoughts or inspiration, and especially what we're being influenced to set goals by from what we see on social media, what's the new trendy thing to be, to have, to live as, then we are just setting goals from a perspective of, well, I want to be rich, or I want to have a designer handbag, or I just want to travel, because these are all the good things that we should be doing, right? Which are all fine, and you should be setting those goals. But there comes a point where you need to look at your life personally to see what goals you need to set in where you are at as a person, in which ways you need to be fulfilled, and in which things you personally need to work on. And you already know I'm about to break down a super practical way you can achieve this right now. So first of all, you're going to start writing out your 2025 goals. Considering the new year is only a few weeks away, I assume you have already done this. I personally have. Then it's time to make your vision board. You could do this in an hour online, on Canva, on Pinterest, or you could get a board and print out a bunch of pictures. When I'm vision boarding and when I'm just writing out my goals on a piece of paper, I like to really split it up into the different categories so I can get super detailed and focused in what I want that area of my life to look like. So all of my financial goals is just in one section of my vision board, and then all of my relationship goals, and then my personal goals, and then my career. And now that you can see where you want to be super clearly, it's now time to review your current circumstances to understand what needs to be done to bridge the gap between the two. So let's focus in on one category of our goals to start. Let's say finances, for example. And let's say under your financial goals, one of your goals was to save more money in the new year. Okay, well, let's now take a look at our current circumstances to understand what is blocking us from not having already achieved that in our life. Is it overspending? Is it a shopping addiction? Is it not having a budget in place? Once you figure out the cause and the blockage, then it's time to assess what can we do to get rid of this. So when it comes time to actually pursuing the goal, the same old obstacles are not coming in the way to prevent us from getting there. You know, if it's I want to be more productive, but you've been procrastinating and you're always scrolling on your phone, you can try and work hard in the new year all you want. But if you're not tackling the core obstacle and the core blockage that's been preventing you from doing it this whole time, you're just going to be in the same old cycle. I personally used to have a really bad procrastination problem, and it wasn't until I listened to a really great podcast episode on procrastination. I believe it was either Diary of a CEO or the Jay Shetty podcast, but I listened to this podcast episode and I made notes whilst I listened to it. And then any time after that I started procrastinating, I would reference the list and then I would start actioning the lessons that I learned from it. And that helped me quit the habit that was preventing me from living my dream life, which required hard work to get to. So an example of getting rid of that blockage for you could be downloading a free Excel budget planner that people have put online for you to use, or it could be reading a book on how to get rid of a shopping addiction. And you basically just repeat this for all of the areas of your life and all of the other goals you have set. But let me remind you, it is so key to be consistent in this journey. And the way that you are consistent is that you implement each thing one by one, okay? You start one goal and then you let it finish and then you move on to the next one. The worst thing you can do for yourself is see, these are all of the goals I've set for every single area of my life and now I have to do it all at once. It's so overwhelming, it's too much, nobody can handle that, and it's literally just the quickest way to burn out. Instead, focus on building one habit at a time. 1 week, focus on just waking up early. The next week, focus on building up your morning routine. The next month after that, then focus on trying to save money. Then after that, then let's start dabbling in investing. Then let's start building up the side hustle. You know what I mean? And if you're really new to this world or you think that your journey so far hasn't been very easygoing and you get overwhelmed really easily, I think a great way to start at this for 2025 is pick out your core 4 goals. Just 4 main goals for the entire year. 4 of the things that are most important to you. I know that everybody's mind is going to run away from them and we are all going to have 50 goals and 50 things that we all want. But let's be real, 1 year to achieve everything we've ever wanted is very unrealistic. So let's pick out the 4 core things that are so important to us and then spread them out across all quarters of the year. Quarter 1, the first 3 months of the year is just spent on goal 1. The second 3 months of the year is just spent on goal 2, and then so on. That means you're actually focused, you're not overwhelmed, and you can be consistent because now all of your attention and energy is being channeled into just completing one task rather than worrying about, but I haven't done this and this and this, but you know, I did go to the gym, but I didn't wake up early. And then that cycle starts where you just feel so badly about yourself that you can't progress onto the next level. Lesson number 3 is to shift your emotional energy to match your dream reality. This is the number 1 rule to manifestation. I'm sure you've all heard it before, you know, match your energy to your desired reality, your thoughts create your reality. These things are all true. Because what you're attracting into your life isn't just about what you are doing. It depends on the thoughts that you have, how you think about yourself, how you think about the world, how abundant and scarce you are, the emotions that you're harboring inside, and the energetic vibration that you are operating at. You cannot expect to attract more into your life when the energy and the emotion and the thought patterns that you are putting out into the universe is basically telling the universe that you want less because you're too scarce, because you don't believe that you actually want it. And of course, there are many practical ways for you to actually action this. One of which is practicing gratitude. That is the quickest, easiest way to lift up your vibration, to start incorporating more positive thoughts into your mind, even if you've had the worst day ever, to start seeking out the beauty and the good in the world and the abundance, starts reprogramming your mind and making it a habit to seek out the good, to be more thankful, to understand that I can attract more abundance because I see abundance everywhere. Another thing you could do is to really get clear and reflect on all of the characteristics that your ideal self, particularly their thoughts and their energy and their emotions. If they were in a really stressful work environment, let's say that they would handle it very confidently in a very calm and collected manner. Why are we not doing that today then? How are we supposed to level up into that version of ourselves with all of those characteristics if we are not practicing them today? You need to ask yourself, what would my ideal self do? And then start implementing them baby step by baby step each day. Another thing you can do to help with this is to change your physical environment to start representing the energy of your desired reality of where you want to be. So this could mean decluttering your environment, because the most abundant, successful, wealthy version of you would not have a messy room, would not never take care of herself or her environment, or not have a nice home to live in. She would have such an organized desk and she would know where everything is to create the energy of productivity when she sits down to work. Alternatively, you could add things that just evoke peace and happiness in your life, into your home, into your work environment, into your morning routine. Lesson number 4 is to practice mental hygiene. Now, I've already touched throughout this episode on the importance of our mind, on the importance of the thoughts that we choose and that we accept to dwell on throughout the day, and how big of a role that can play in creating the life that we live. Just like your body needs regular care to be well taken care of, the right food, fresh air, exercise, your mind needs the exact same thing. It's not just about adopting positive thought. It's about releasing any of that mental clutter. It's about reorganizing everything that's going on in your mind and letting go of the things that just aren't working. So how can we give our mind the care it needs to make sure that it is in the best tip-top shape, which means everything else in our life can flow and work very effectively? Well, obviously, the first thing is meditation. This is the most proved and effective way to clear out the mind. Whenever I do this, I find that my mind is so loud and so intense at the beginning, and I'm so present and so hyper aware of everything that's in my mind that I didn't even know before, because I was here, there, everywhere working. I knew what was going on in my head, but not even to its fullest extent. When you are sitting in silence, you see everything, you can hear everything. And oftentimes it will stop you from meditating because you think that you're doing it wrong. But that is so far from the truth. You have to sit with your thoughts and allow them to pass through and allow yourself to see everything that is there until you can understand the next best steps to take to start to remove them, to start to work on them. But honestly, a lot of the time, just sitting there in silence allows them to just pass through, and you'll find that your mind is actually a lot clearer after just a few minutes of focusing on your breath. Another way to practice mental hygiene is a new routine that I have discovered and I am obsessed with. I even put my boyfriend onto this recently, and this is learning the difference between a high versus low cortisol routine. For those of you who don't know, cortisol is the hormone that affects our stress levels. If you are engaging in a high cortisol routine, which obviously nobody is doing voluntarily, essentially it means that you are going to have really high stress levels in your life. So let's talk about what this actually is. A high cortisol routine looks like reading your emails first thing in the morning, bringing your laptop into bed before you've even fully woken up because you have so many things to catch up on. It looks like revenge procrastination before bed, scrolling, not getting enough sleep, surviving on coffee, not eating enough, overworking yourself, never making time to actually go outside, enjoy some fresh air, skipping breakfast in the morning, rushing off to places. A low cortisol routine looks like not going on your phone within the first hour after waking up and the last hour before going to bed. It looks like eating the right foods. It looks like having breakfast within the first 2 hours of waking up. It looks like moving your body every single day. It looks like going outside, getting fresh air, looking up at the sun every single day. It looks like taking time to relax, to take care of yourself, to actually enjoy life. It looks like having a boundary between your work and your personal life. That's a good summary of what it looks like, but I highly recommend that everybody listening to this episode right now, afterwards, I want you to Google high cortisol versus low cortisol routine/habits and actually read through it, because when I did that, it just changed a lot for me. It held me so accountable on so many of the things I wasn't even consciously aware of that I was doing that were contributing to ruining my mood, to ruining my day. When you just eventually get to that point where you're like, why am I so miserable? Why am I so tired? Why am I in such a slump? Why can't I do anything? It's because of all of those little micro habits you're doing throughout the day that you don't think are bad for you, because you think, well, I want to scroll on my phone before bed. You know what I mean? But that is interfering with your mind. It's interfering with your sleep quality, your circadian rhythm, and it's just making a mess of your life that could be very abundant and very successful otherwise. Lesson number 5 has to be my favorite, and this is stop being a passenger princess in your own life. It is time to get back in the driver's seat of your own life, aka in control of everything that you experience in your life. No more floating through day to day. Well, I have to go here, I have to be there, I need to make sure I'm there on time and do all of these things and make sure my to-do list is done for the day, and then never actually thinking, but how do I feel during this? Is this adding to my day? What is the overall purpose of doing this? How is this making me feel? When was the last time I checked in on my mental health? Am I actually having fun in life? When was the last time I put out just an hour per week to make sure that I have some enjoyment, some social time? So we need to be more intentional about creating moments of happiness and joy in our lives, even if it means spending those times alone. So many people wait for happiness to come to them. to just happen for them. And I'm no exception. I thought that that's how happiness worked my entire life. I was waiting for the moment that I would just be happy. But the truth is, you can't have happiness without being proactive about it, without choosing to seek out happiness in your life, without choosing to implement moments of joy and things to be happy about in your life. It's all in your control. It's all in your power. Every other factor in your life, your success, your money, the people around you could all be great and perfect, and you could very well still be miserable. And I'm saying that because I've been in that exact same situation. It's only when you choose to be happy that you can actually experience happiness. And when you realize this, I think it's actually such a great intention to set for a new year just around the corner. A lot of the time we can feel pressure to be like, I need to get a promotion this year, or I need to travel to 5 countries in the year, or I need to quadruple my salary. Your New Year's resolution, your core value, your core intention for the year can just be, I want to be the happiest I've ever been. What a great thing to work towards. And although it might sound simple to some, it can facilitate so much growth, that intention, because when you start being really intentional about, I want to implement more joy and more happiness in my life, that in itself gets you outside of your comfort zone so much. Because now all of a sudden you got to start thinking outside of the box and putting yourself in new environments and new situations with new people to experience new emotions, to experience a new reality, to experience more things to be grateful for. On top of that, it really gets you on top of your productivity and time management. We all have so many things to do in the day. Everybody is so busy. To really build those little pockets of joy and happiness after work, we can't just flop on the sofa, watch Netflix, okay? We got to think, what's actually gonna benefit my mental health and my happy hormones right now? Maybe I should take a walk before I go home. Maybe I should journal or romanticize my life, or plan one Sunday every single month where I see my friends, or I go on a solo trip. I think it's the best way to keep yourself so accountable in making sure that you are actually living life. You are not just floating through a to-do list. And finally, lesson number 6 is to have a system of pick-me-up pillars in place. So essential and so underrated, this step. What is the number one cause of us letting go of our goals, not being consistent, taking too many days off? What is it? What is the cause of that? Let me tell you, the cause is not that we're lazy, it's that there is too much resistance between ourselves and the task at hand that we need to do. And that resistance that's holding us back looks like perfectionism, fear of failure, fear of getting started, lack of skills, lack of knowledge. And all of those examples of resistance are caused by low self-esteem and confidence in different areas of your life. Because think about it. Any time in your life that you have gotten things done to an amazing standard, you have done them so efficiently, so quickly, so easily, with no dread in your mind, no desire to want to give up or skip it or hand it to somebody else. You've always done it to the best of your ability in the most efficient and effective way. Why? Because you knew you were good at it. It was easy. That stuff comes naturally to you. Of course you can do it. You're so good at it, and you know you're so good at it that you're actually excited to do it because it makes you feel good. And when you feel good about doing something, all of the resistance between you and completing the task sifts away. At the end of the day, seeing your progress, seeing your talent is what keeps you consistent and keeps you motivated in making progress. Because you know in every step you take, it's going to be a step that makes you feel good, which obviously also implements joy and happiness into our days. And in order to achieve that, we have to take responsibility for it. So when I realized that this was a problem in my life because I experienced self-doubt and fear of failure and perfectionism all the time, and it was preventing me from actually taking any actions or steps in my life, I decided to take responsibility in removing that resistance by opening up the notes app in my phone and just creating a list of every achievement I had had in my life so far. By the way, at this point, I was only 16 years old. I had not achieved much, but it doesn't have to be big and extravagant. It can be little things like I got a good mark in my exam. I spoke to a new person today. I worked out for the first time in a while. I have really good relationships with other people in my family. I learned a new skill. I started a new hobby. I made new friends. By the time I was 16, I'd actually already started a YouTube channel. Did it have any growth? No, it was the highest it got to was actually 300 subscribers when I was 14. But that doesn't matter. You know, something like that can always prevent us from writing it down as an accomplishment, but that's not the point. It was me taking the step to start the YouTube channel at 14 years old and actually film and upload a video. That is the achievement. That is something to be proud of. Another thing is to have a weekly gratitude practice where every single Sunday, as a part of your night routine or as part of your Sunday reset routine, I want you to reflect back on the week, like scroll through your camera roll or scroll through your calendar to remind yourself everything you did. And then I want you to either make a mental list or journal about what went right this week. What were the small wins? What was the growth that you experienced? Otherwise, life will pass you by and you genuinely won't remember what you have gone through. When I turned 24 2 months ago in October, I journaled about everything I achieved from 23 till 24. And I genuinely forgot so many of the things. I forgot that I went to New York for the first time, which was my lifelong dream. It takes this like actual active reflection and writing things down to make yourself aware of, oh, I'm actually good at this. Or, oh, I'm actually doing a really good effing job. And then lastly, what are your pick-me-ups? Okay, because this is personal to everyone. Your personal pick-me-ups are just these little things each day that just bring that little bit of joy, bring that little bit of motivation, make you feel like the day you're going to be able to get through it. You know, for me personally, and many people know this, especially if you follow me on Snapchat, I have a matcha in my hand every single day, all the time. That is just one little thing that just adds that little bit of magic into my day. If I'm working, I'm going to work for 5 hours straight at home and I have that matcha on my desk, I know I'm going to get the job done. For some people, it's knowing even though they got a 10-hour shift at work that day, they're seeing their friends in the evening and it makes them excited again. Otherwise, it could be ensuring that you always have something planned on the weekend. So throughout the week, you always have something to look forward to. These are all examples of pick-me-ups, which make sure that you are consistent on your journey. You are regulating your emotions. You have a good baseline for your mental health where life doesn't feel miserable and hopeless and like it's not going anywhere because you are taking responsibility and you are setting the steps in advance to make sure that life is worth living according to what is going to personally fulfill you. And that brings us to the end of this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Oh my God, I genuinely can't believe that 2025 is just around the corner. I love this time of year. This is my time to shine. I just think it's so magical. I think it's so powerful. I also think it's so wholesome because yes, we're setting goals for the year, but we're also reflecting on everything we did in 2024. And it's so amazing to like go back to January and remember what that looked like because a lot of us just don't remember, especially me. I really hope that you guys enjoyed this episode. I loved talking about all of these steps and I would love, if you're watching this on YouTube, to comment down below and let me know, what did you enjoy about this? What lessons are you going to implement? What have you taken away from this? Did it change your mind on anything? Has it inspired you in any way? I love reading comments like that. It keeps me going. It inspires me on new, fresh content to put out for you guys. So yeah, but just thank you so much for watching. And like I said before, be sure to check out all of the links below where you can check out the Self-Obsessed newsletter along with all of my other social links that are going to help you on your self-development journey. That's all for now. I will see you same time next week on Wednesday for a brand new episode of Self-Obsessed on all platforms. But in the meantime, have the best time and stay self-obsessed. Mwah.